The stock of the day is brought to you by IG, Australia's #1 CFD provider. With over 17,000 markets and extended trading hours, turn US earnings season volatility into opportunity. Get started at IG.com.
Stock of the day is Paladin, the uranium miner, cutting its production guidance, citing production issues at its Langer Heinrich mine in Namibia, saying as a result of the lower than expected production results for October and noting the ongoing challenges and operational viability experienced to date in ramping up production at the Langer Heinrich mine, Paladin has determined to revise its FY25 production guidance. Production guidance there lowered to between 3 million and 3.6 million pounds, down from 4 to 4.5 million previously. And the company is saying it expects production to be higher in the second half of FY25 as it works through the current challenges encountered at its mine, as it looks to ramp up operations then. So let's take a look particularly at the chart. And it does look ugly today, off around 25% off the back of that downgrade. Gary, how do you see it?
I really can't see any support for this one until around about that 560 zone, which is sort of the 2022 and 2023 lows, kind of pretty much where they've sort of built a base for around 2 or 3 years, and then started to build. It looks pretty negative to me. So it looks. I know it's sort of gap down here. Look, you know, people might say, could be an exhaustion gap here. Look, maybe it is, but the trend is pretty negative there. I personally wouldn't be touching it there. I mean, uranium's been a leading sector there, obviously, early in the year. It had a terrific run there for probably 18 months. And the thing is, with those leading sectors, once the trend rolls over, there's something called the 50-80 rule, where now 80% of those leading sectors here will have a decline around 50%, and then 50% of them might actually have something like a 70 or 80% decline. So they can have big pullbacks once those leading themes really finish their really aggressive trend. So, you know, to me, it's a stay away from here at the moment. You're trying to bottom pick here, which is dangerous.
All right, if you're in it, do you sell though, or do you hang on? It's a hard call.
Tough question. Yeah, I wouldn't have been in it. So,
well, that's easy to say in retrospect, isn't it, Gary?
Yeah. Well, it's been trending down pretty aggressively. So So if you haven't sold it by now, you've probably left it pretty late here. But I can't see any support until around about 560. The good news is we have seen a lot of V-shaped highs and lows here in this market. So we've seen sectors get hit pretty hard, then run pretty hard, hit pretty hard, and bounce back pretty hard. So I think it might go a bit lower here, but then it's probably likely just to bounce back pretty hard in a few months' time as well. So if you've sat through this bigger move, you might want to sit through a bit longer.
Okay, Michael.
I actually really like this sector. I think there's quite a bit of upside next year for the uranium sector. There's quite a bit
because of Trump?
No.
Or added to that?
I mean, that would actually help a little bit, to be honest. But basically, you've got increasing demand for nuclear power, which we're all reading about. But the supply of uranium is just not keeping up. The largest miner out of Kazakhstan has cut production, and as we could see with Paladin, they're finally getting into production, but they just can't meet their target. So supply is going to be an issue. The problem is it's a very opaque market. It doesn't move with the spot. The spot price doesn't move with actually what's really happening in the uranium market, like with other commodities. So the market at the moment doesn't have a visibility to where these prices can go. So I think they could pick up quite a bit next year, and this whole sector can do really well. But as Paladin's shown today, it's hard to get more supply into the market, and that's just going to boost prices. But they're clearly giving everybody a lesson in what not to do, because they had a quarterly announcement only a few weeks ago. And obviously you get teething issues when you're trying to get into production. But they've come clean today that they've had to cut guidance. So what's interesting is this was a stock that I think was about 14-15% short sold. So if the short sellers have now met, if they've now achieved what they were after, which was basically a big downgrade, you might start to see a lot of short covering. I mean, in the next couple of days, as Gary mentioned, we don't know if this thing could go lower, but if it doesn't go lower in the next few days, then clearly the short sellers would use this opportunity to cover off their shorts, because they've made quite a bit of money in the past month. They'd be up sort of 40%. So is it a buy today? I think it depends on your time horizon.
Technically, no sign of a bottom?
Technically, I mean, it's off the lows from this morning, so maybe it's doing that. But I had a chart, if we don't mind pulling it up again, a monthly chart of Paladin. What's very interesting is it's been forming this big base, as we could see, for over 10 years now, and it popped out of that earlier in the year, but it's come back into into that zone, and I've put a diagonal line there on the far right hand side where it might find support on this monthly chart, which is around where it is now. So and we might be discussing this later in the show, with any chart, when you have a formation, like a consolidation or a base, the longer it goes on for, the bigger the move when it eventually does get going. So when this thing finally gets going at some point next year, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in the short term, you could end up with a fairly substantial move. And as Gary said, it's not unusual for when the trend gets going, you see 50% declines, but often in these sorts of, with these sorts of declines, once the trend gets going again, you could even see a tripling of the share price. But look, for today, I think it's an observation. Let's see if we do get buying support. If you're brave, you might want to pick it up over the next few days. But what I'd be doing for clients, and this is a stock we've traded earlier in the year for clients, I'd prefer to see more of a trend established. I'd like to see it getting above some key moving averages, but that might be a few months away.
All right, so I'm going to call that a hold, but a wait essentially from you.
Yeah, it'd be a hold here.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. That is our stock of the day.
The stock of the day was brought to you by IG. Turn volatility into opportunity this US earnings season with extended trading hours on over 110 key US shares. Get started at IG.com.